Dan, I wonder if you could chime in on this question too, the question of how you see the posture of the policymaking community in the U.S. and how you see it outside the U.S. What have you seen here domestically and how it compares with outside of the U.S.?
Sure. I think it's important to start with the fact that Bitcoin's an entirely new thing. It doesn't fit into any of the existing regulatory frameworks. There have been agencies like your former agency, the CFTC, that have been progressive and have decided that Bitcoin has the attributes of a commodity and could be regulated by the CFTC. But it's statutorily not what everyone's called it today. It's called a currency, but by law, a currency has to be issued by a nation state. And the same thing with whether it's a security, there's a kind of a catch-22 in the SEC custody rule that makes it impossible to have Bitcoin be a security. So in the US, we're trying to kind of cram it into existing frameworks, and it is difficult. And the other challenge in the US is our federal system, where much of the regulation is pushed down to the states. So on the flip side, I think Europe actually will be leapfrogging the US in the regulatory regime, because if you are licensed in one nation, you can passport it to the entire 27 countries in the EU. So it's kind of the polar opposite of the US federal system. And Luxembourg's already regulated one Bitcoin company. I think they'll soon be regulating some big exchanges. And then that gets passported to the entire European Union. I think that's a much more efficient way to encourage development. I think it is an important issue because a huge amount of what's happening in the Bitcoin ecosystem, at least, is happening abroad, and in particular in China. It's a very active trading market, and I think the U.S. has a domestic rationale to try and encourage companies to be regulated in the U.S.